What's exciting about Popeyes is we have the opportunity to double our footprint in the U.S. and grow rapidly internationally, so there is no better growth.
We were really excited about the launch of the chicken sandwich. We spent a lot of time working on a best-in-class sandwich. The heritage of Popeyes has always been about culinary.
Popeyes is facing a lawsuit in Ontario, but the real story isn't in court. It's inside the fryer. Ex-workers describe frozen chicken tossed straight into hot oil because speed mattered more than safety. Imagine biting into something that looked cooked, but wasn't. That's the battlefield where your health is the casualty. The question is, how deep does this problem run, and what does it mean for the next meal you order? Quick favor before we move on. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 92% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So did you subscribe already? Great, thank you so much for your support. Now back to the video. Viewers expect a crisp, golden chicken. But what happens when frozen meat is dumped straight into scalding oil? This is where the fight for speed collides with safety. Behind the neon signs, ex-workers describe an assembly line under pressure.
You know, this one sandwich changed the trajectory of QSR chicken, but it certainly changed the trajectory for Popeyes.
It was also created to be shared, like pizza.
We were really excited about the launch of the chicken sandwich. We spent a lot of time working on a best-in-class sandwich. The heritage of Popeyes has always been about culinary.
Orders stack up. Timers buzz. And instead of careful prep, bags of chicken are hauled from freezers and hurled into vats of hot oil without thawing. On the outside, it looks perfect, crunchy, golden, appetizing. But the battlefield isn't on the plate, it's inside the fryer, where undercooked flesh can hide beneath that coating. The difference between the marketing image of tender, slow-seasoned food and the lived reality is stark. Advertisements show chefs battering pieces with patience, but on the ground the pace is ruthless, mechanical. There's no time for careful seasoning or measured temperature checks, only the next tray. Pieces iced together are jammed apart with tongs, and sometimes they're dropped into the oil as one solid clump. The outside fries fast, sealing in what looks like victory, but the core can remain cold, rubbery, even raw. One former manager described the process in blunt terms: during high-traffic hours, we'd throw frozen chicken straight into the oil and pray it cooked through. That isn't culinary discipline. That is triage under fire. And when you're the one paying for the meal, you become the test subject of that gamble. Meanwhile, the oil itself becomes a hidden enemy. A fryer is supposed to run like precision artillery, maintained, cycled, refreshed. Instead, some sites admit they stretch the oil far beyond the safe window. As one insider put it, we'd only change the oil when it started to smell like a chemistry experiment gone wrong. Think about that. Not a set interval. Not a health standard. Just waiting until a foul stench filled the air. By that stage, the oil is no longer just cooking medium, it's toxic terrain.
The food, in other words, the food doesn't degrade over time as much as, say, French fries or hamburgers. So it's that next category.
What's exciting about Popeyes is we have the opportunity to double our footprint in the U.S. and grow rapidly internationally, so there is no better growth.
Repeated heating breaks down the structure of the oil, forming trans fats, multiplying free radicals, and releasing a slew of unstable compounds. These don't just coat the food with bitterness, they slip into it, ride into your body. Every dunk, every reheat, every dropped basket accelerates the breakdown. What should be a clean base becomes a swamp of contaminants that the human body wasn't designed to handle. And then there are the so-called flavor crystals. What sounds like a marketing term is really debris, burnt fragments of batter and spice that accumulate inside the vat. In a well-run outpost, this sludge gets skimmed out, tossed away. But in reports from neglected kitchens, these jagged fragments pile up, blackened, bitter, and drifting like shrapnel across the oil's surface. Instead of being removed, they swirl to the next order, embedding into the crust of your meal. Each bite contains the leftovers of yesterday's rush. Inspectors have compared some of these vats to motor oil, so dark you can't see a basket resting 2 inches below the surface. Floating debris big enough to block filtration. A fryer reduced to a graveyard of cook's shortcuts. Imagine sending a frontline unit into combat with rusted rifles and cracked body armor. That's what this is, tools worn past the breaking point, pushed back into service for the sake of cutting costs. That battlefield doesn't claim lives the way artillery does, but the casualty count is real. Undercooked meat carries pathogens. Oil gone rancid breeds compounds tied to health risks over time. Debris-choked fryers send scorched leftovers straight to your tray. These aren't isolated flaws, they are systemic cracks in the defense line of food safety. And unlike a soldier who signs up for risk, you as the consumer didn't enlist for this exposure. This all signals a pattern: corporate speed quotas and margin targets outrank crew caution. Workers in the trenches do what they can, but the command structure pushes volume over protection. Safety is treated not as the mission objective, but as collateral.
It's meant to be shared, and so there's a value proposition there for the family.
Until then, they were a solidly performing middle-of-the-road chain that certainly was doing all right, but that nobody would say, hey, they're really setting themselves apart.
Excellence, and so we felt we had something really special for simple but amazing ingredients: a chicken fillet, a bun, pickles, and mayonnaise, and
the result is your meal showing up as the byproduct of a compromised system. So the danger isn't only in poor taste. It's in the very integrity of what's being served: meat not heated to safe levels, oil laced with breakdown toxins, debris folded into the final product. That is what ends up in your basket, masked in a red and white box and called lunch. If the fryer itself is corrupted, what about the greater system, the chain of sanitation, the cold storage, the prep surfaces? When the front line is this exposed, the rear positions may be even weaker. And if that's the case, the risks don't stop at oil, they extend to every corner of the kitchen battlefield. A single combo meal at Popeyes can carry more sodium than half your recommended intake. That much salt acts like a slow barrage, pushing blood pressure higher, straining the heart, and setting the stage for long-term damage. One nutritionist called it like taking a salt lick and calling it lunch. This is not just about taste. It's about exposure to hidden practices designed for profit, not protection. You need to treat fast food choices like battlefield intel: read the signs, study the terrain, decide if it's worth the risk. Subscribe and join a community that cuts through the fog of food safety.